Appreciate everyone for coming out. This is kind of something new that we're starting here. We're called the Kimchi family. Really, what the mission of this really is to highlight Koreans through sports, and really our mission is to influence, cultivate, and empower the Korean community with sports, but also highlight awesome people that are in sports and just kind of express that knowledge and pass that knowledge along. So um, what Marshall and I were really just kind of talking about was, Korean Americans here, we have a tough time supporting each other, and to show that support and to champion each other along. And so hopefully, Kimchi family and doing these speaker series would be a great time to go ahead and do that. And so that's why we started it. And I've known Marshall, just got to meet him this year through Kimchi Express. I don't know if you guys know the basketball tournament, but we are a team there. We were involved for past 5 years or so, and had an opportunity to try to get in, but didn't this year, but have Marshall as one of our coaches. And, obviously we've got an awesome guest here, Jon Yim with the Blazers. So I'll pass it along to Marshall so we can intro him, and we'll get started here.
All right, thanks for that, Daniel. Again, my name is Marshall Cho. I'm a head boys basketball coach at Lake Oswego High School in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. Just finished my 5th year. How I got involved is, it's kind of what Daniel was talking about. I've been in this coaching world for about 15 years now. And, I look around and, sometimes it could be kind of a lonely experience in terms of just being one of the, only Korean Americans in the space. So what I really wanted to do with this is, use it as a tool to encourage, really, it's for me to look back and see what, and be inspired by what Daniel started just as a 26-year-old, not too many years removed from college, and having this ambition and the gumption to start, a team from scratch, and seeing how quickly it's even, made its way up to TBT. But also just to use the friendships that I've gained along the way, the handful of Korean Americans that I have met and befriended and look up to, and really give them a platform to share their story, and hope that it's an encouragement to those of you who either have been in the industry for a little while, or are just getting into it, or love basketball but don't know how to get your foot in the door. We hope to provide a wide range of guests that would be able to share their stories and for you guys to connect. So with all that said, I have a good friend of mine, Jon Yim, here at least on my Zoom in the middle of the screen, wearing his white Portland shirt, repping the city. Jonathan is the current, one of the assistant coaches with the Trailblazers. He started as a video coordinator. He just finished his 7th year. He has just been a wide range of coaching experience even before that, that I would love for you guys to hear his story. And just has also just high character, high care, just somebody I really admire. And so I wanted him to share his story, his family life, what motivates him and what makes him tick, and what his favorite go-to kimchi is. So with all that said, Jonathan, if you want to just say a quick hello, and then we can kind of go through a list of questions, and then we'll give the people who've tuned in just a chance to ask some questions as well.
Sure. Hey, thank you, Marshall. Thank you, Daniel and Marshall, also just for having me. I mean, this is an incredible honor to be your first guest, to speak to everybody. And I think that what you guys are doing is really awesome and cool. I wish that when I was younger, I had something like this to just kind of see other successful Korean Americans, Asian Americans in different platforms, being able to just kind of just inspire me. So I think that what you guys are doing is great. I'm really excited and honored to be your first guest, and also just to be here with you guys. And I hope for everyone that's listening, you guys get something from the topics that we discuss. And if you guys have any questions, maybe we can answer them at the end.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Jon. Yeah, thanks for hopping on and having the courage to do this with a couple of novices. I've done a lot of these Zoom calls, and I usually, we just go through it. But, I found myself being a little bit nervous today because, you know, you have such a powerful story to tell, and I don't want to mess it up, but at the same time, it is so just, it's going to tell itself. So I know that that you'll come through for us. So just to get started, tell us about, you know, where you grew up, where you were born and raised, and how, you know, you got introduced to a game of basketball.
Sure. So I'm originally from Southern California. I grew up in Irvine, um, basically my entire life until I moved up to Portland. Went to Cal State Fullerton, UCI, um, graduated from Northwood High School. I know we have a couple Southern California guys in there, so you guys will know where that is. Really was introduced to basketball at an early age by my dad. I remember the first memory that I really had with basketball was he was born in Chicago. He was a huge Chicago Bulls fan, and every time that the Bulls won, we would get ice cream. So they won a lot, so we got a lot of ice cream. So it was, you know, that's how I just kind of started learning about basketball, and really my love for the game really just kind of grew. You know, being a Michael Jordan fan, played it all the way through youth basketball and then in high school, and then yeah, that's basically how I got started and introduced to the game of basketball. Yeah.
Just a little bit about your dad. I know we're going to get a chance to talk about that, but so I read somewhere that you're actually a fourth generation Korean American.
Yeah.
Is that right? So your dad would be a third, and so what was his story a little bit? You know, for him to be, I know he was a pastor, but you know, him falling in love with the Bulls, it was easy to do back in those days. But tell us a little bit about your dad.
Well, actually, so the first generation of the Yims, actually, he was one of the first Korean Americans to come to the United States, to immigrate to the United States from Korea. He was a minister. He actually started one of the first Korean American churches in Oakland, California. I think it's called First Presbyterian Church in Oakland. And then my grandfather was born in Oakland. My grandmother was born in Sacramento. They met, and my grandfather went off to the war. So my grandmother relocated to Chicago, and that's where my dad was born. So that's how my dad came. I think he lived in Chicago for a number of years, and then once the war and everything kind of was over, they moved back to California. Grew up in like the Long Beach, Lakewood area, and yeah, so that's 3 generations, and I'm the 4th generation.
Amazing. And then you have your mother. How did they meet, and where is she from? And
so my mom was originally from Seoul, Korea. My dad and mom actually met through matchmaking, and my dad went over there. They fell in love really quickly, and they got married in 8 days. So yeah, it was really quick. That's why I kind of believe I'm hopeless romantic a little bit, because I kind of believe, like, you know, you don't really have to have like a set time or anything. If you know, you just kind of know. And they got married really quick, and my mom came to America, I think maybe a year later, and I was born, and then my sister was born, and moved to Irvine. So yeah.
So here's young Jon Yim growing up in Irvine. What was that like? Was basketball the first sport you played, or did you play anything else? Or
Yeah, basketball was pretty much the first sport that I played. I think I dabbled in a lot of other sports like tennis, and my sister was a gymnast, so I did some gymnastics. And then around 8, 9, 10, I really started getting into golf, and golf ended up being my primary sport all the way through youth and then high school, a little bit of college. So that was my main sport. Basketball was obviously a passion of mine, something that I really enjoyed. I was just short, so
yeah.
you know, I didn't have a growth spurt. I'm 5'10" now, but I didn't have a growth spurt till my senior year, so that made it a little difficult to really pursue basketball at that time.
So, I mean, you have a unique story in terms of just how you started coaching at such a young age. I didn't start until I was 30 years old, so I'm envious. You're about half my age when you started. Can you tell us just a little bit about your very first experience being a coach and how that came to be?
Yeah. So my dad and I, when I was in high school, we decided that in order for community service, you have to do like 25 hours of community service every year uh, in Irvine. So my dad and I, we decided that we would coach a basketball team at the Boys and Girls Club, which is where I played youth basketball. And unfortunately, it never came to fruition because my dad passed away soon afterwards. So I think that for me, since that might have been like the last thing that we decided that we were going to do, I think that I really got into it. Just because, like I said, that was like the last thing that we decided we were going to do. So I started coaching at the Boys and Girls Club when I was 14. Coached all the way through high school. I had to coach girls basketball at the time because the girls season didn't interfere with golf season or my basketball season. And then as I got older and could drive and stuff like that, then I started coaching boys also. Boys like during the winter season, and then the girls during the spring, summer season. Just kind of really fell in love with it. Created like a girls club program at 16. And then right out of high school, just started coaching high school basketball. I coached 2 years of a girls varsity team when I was 19 and 20, and then another year, and then I decided to shift and switch on over to the boys side. So I coached boys after that, and I ended up coaching about 10 years of high school basketball before I got an internship with the Clippers.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, again, knowing you a little bit and knowing your personality and just, how for me, watching you have such just when you make up your mind and you go for it, but even touching on how, your parents met and, Snap and they're over here. And so that's, again, like you've done this high school thing and all of a sudden there's an opportunity for you to get your foot in the door with the Clippers. And there's a great story behind that as well that involves a garbage can, but tell us about just, what was going through your mind and just tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Well, I think that what I realized, over the last couple of months, especially during the pandemic and just all the talk about mental health and mental awareness and, having a deeper understanding of maybe what depression is and stuff like that. I really feel like coaching helped me, and I really needed it because, after my dad passed away, I just didn't have I was looking for my purpose, and I was looking for my community, and I was looking for some joy. And, when you're growing up, like I had a really good childhood, and you have all these pillars of foundations and stuff. And when a foundation gets rocked, you kind of are looking for other things to kind of hold it up and stuff. So as I was searching for like my purpose, being young, searching for my purpose in life and what I want to do and all the things, coaching just gave me a different avenue where I kind of fit in, where I just felt accepted, and I was good at it, I felt, and I really enjoyed it. And, I'm competitive, so it gave me that aspect too, to compete. And, but, like those kids they're really good for me and they really healed me. And it just allowed me, the more that I just stuck with it, it just gave me more opportunities at different things that I never thought I would ever get. And so I would always keep my eyes open for different opportunities and different things that were happening, and I wasn't, closed off and stuff. So I guess how I moved up to the next level was just by chance and by luck. But there was a shooting coach named Bob Tate, and he was Jason Kidd's shooting coach with the New Jersey Nets. And he had just been let go by the New Jersey Nets, and he was from Orange County. So he came out to all the high schools, and he was trying to sell his shooting program and stuff. And the coach at the high school that I was at, he just grabbed all the flyers and threw it in the trash can. He said, "We do enough shooting. We don't need to hire a guy to work with our guys." but Bob had sat with us for about an hour, and I really liked what he said about shooting. So I went back to that trash can and I grabbed one of the flyers, and I just was like, I don't know if I'll ever use them or if we'll ever cross paths, but one, I really liked the flyer, and I was going to do a summer camp that year, so I wanted to copy it. And two, like I said, I just really liked what he said. So fast forward a year or so, and a bunch of my kids on my club program, they were looking for a shooting coach, and I thought it was important that they get shooting from someone other than me, because they heard my voice too much. So I wanted to hear a different voice. And they went and they were looking for different guys to work with them. And one guy was going to charge him like $200 a lesson. And I said, let's wait a second. I got a guy, he's an NBA shooting coach. He's pretty, he's done a great job with the players. Let's utilize him. Let's see if he'll do it. And I called Bob and we talked, and Bob said, I'll do it for like $35. And I was like, whoa, Bob, we got to give you more money than that, right? So we negotiated a price and stuff, and Bob started working with a lot of my players on my club team. And after he was done, I'd watch the workouts and stuff like that. And after he was done, Bob and I would just sit and chat and about NBA games or college games. And we just kind of hit it off. So one day Bob texted me and he's like, hey, I'm working out Luke Walton, who was with the Lakers at the time. He's like, I'm working out Luke tomorrow. Do you want to come with me? And I said, sure. I thought it'd be fun. And I went up and we were at the Laker facility, and first thing Bob tells me is, don't talk to anybody, right? Don't talk to anybody. I was like, okay. And we worked out Luke, and we're driving back home, and Bob said, hey, you did a great job. You want to come back again tomorrow? And I was like, sure. So that just kind of started my relationship with Bob. And I ended up working with Bob for about 4 or 5 years. And it got to the point where he got a lot of confidence in my ability to know how to teach how to shoot. So he would kind of, when we had multiple guys, he'd send me to one guy, and then he would go to the other guy, and then we'd flip in a day or two. And Bob ended up getting Blake and DeAndre were looking for a shooting coach. The Clippers were looking for a shooting coach, and they brought in a bunch of shooting coaches. And Bob was one of the coaches that they brought in. And Bob told the GM at the time, Gary Sykes, he's like, well, I'll come in, but I got to bring in this guy, Jon, with me, because him and I are like partners, and I can't do it without him. So Bob brought me in, and I was just rebounding for Blake and DeAndre, and Vinny Del Negro was the coach at the time, and Mark Ivoroni was an assistant, and I just started talking to them, and I just started telling him, like, hey, I can do more than just, rebound here. Like, you can put me to work. Like, what do you guys need? And like every day I was just like hitting them up and hitting the video coordinator at the time, Rams Posada, up and just saying, hey, like, I can do more. Like, is there anything you guys need? What can I do for you guys? The Clippers used to run pickup games. So they were like, well, why don't you like wipe up the sweat and stuff like that during the games? And I was like, all right, no problem, right? And I do that, and pretty soon, I just became a fixture there. And toward then, around this time, September 11th, Raman came back to me and said, hey, you really impressed guys here, and we'd like to offer you an internship in the video room if you want that. And I was like, I just jumped at that opportunity. So that's kind of how I got involved in the NBA, I guess.
That's a crazy story, Jon. Again, I'm sorry to everyone else. You're going to have to indulge me for a moment here, because some of this is, again, I know Jon pretty well, but the details of his journey, I'm, just like many of you, hearing some of these for the first time. So Ram's, like, I've known forever. I didn't know that he was the one who, was like kind of a catalyst there. I'm going to have to call him back up and check up on it. But I mean, how you went, again, I don't want to get off topic here too much, but you telling that story makes me think like now you've been at your position for 7 years. I'm sure you get hit up a lot by people who probably remind you of you. Hey, I can help with the Blazers. Do you have an internship? How do I get? When you look back 7 years ago, it's such a transactional world, in many ways. Number one, you had somebody who was advocating for you and Bob who trusted you. So, maybe you could share with us, like, what, if you reflect on it, what about you do you think that made him trust you so much, other than sending him business his way? And then, yeah, how did you go about just, because a lot of people on the screen too, maybe they ask, hey, I can help, I can volunteer. Maybe they'll ask a couple times and they get rejected and they walk away. But what was it about you to just consistently just be, I don't know, persistent without being annoying? It's a fine line to walk, but.
Well, I think Bob trusted me because I'd been with them for so long. And um, I never acted like I was the expert because I wasn't. Like Bob could see things that, because he's done it for so long that I can never see even to this day. He'll watch someone shoot. He's like a maestro at teaching shooting. And, he trusted me because he knew that I was going to give it my best effort and I wasn't going to screw it up. And if I did screw it up, he knew that he could fix it. So, that's, but, I'm still very appreciative of Bob and for him trusting me, for giving me that opportunity and, for advocating for me. And in terms of like being persistent and talking to Vinny and Mark and Ramen and the other coaches there and stuff like that, it's like I was a high school coach at that time, and I was a varsity coach. I'd been, and it was kind of a risk for me because the Clipper internship we didn't get paid. So we were giving up, a lot of security and um, just, yeah, it was a risk because you didn't know what could happen from it, You got tenure and all the things. And, but, I rely on my faith a lot and, and I talk to those that are important to me, like my mom and my sister. And, we figure out, we listen and we hear different things and we try to figure out what's the right thing and what's the right path. And for me, I knew that if I didn't take that opportunity, like I would regret it for the rest of my life. And so yeah, I jumped at it and I still live in Irvine. So it was a 15-mile commute every morning in LA traffic. And 50 miles back, and it was terrible, but it was worth it. And it was something that I would do 100 times out of 100 times. In terms of people just being persistent or not wanting to be annoying, I think for me, I really appreciate people that just kind of stay in touch and not necessarily sending emails like every week, but just staying in touch and just touching base and maybe hitting you more on a professional level and not in terms of like looking for something. And even though I think with the Clippers, like I was definitely looking for something, I think that I was always like, hey, I'm willing to do anything. Like, what else can I do? Like, do you need this, or can I do this for you guys? Or like, there's no job, or like, there's no thing that's too mundane that I would not do. And yeah, like we brought in a guy this year, and he had interviewed for a position 4 years ago and he didn't get it, but he had stayed consistent, like just texting me like, hey, Merry Christmas, how's your family doing? Um, hey, great win last night, or tough loss last night, and I think just kind of building that relationship, because it might not be at this moment that you might get in, or you might create a avenue to get in, but maybe in the future something might become available, and because you have that relationship that you built maybe over that time, not in a selfish way, but in a just authentic way, I think that will help you in the long run.
Yeah. I'm sure there's people who have questions about more specifics about the grind that you put in for those 2 years, but we'll move forward. So then, if luck would have it, you get an opportunity to hop on with our Portland Trailblazers. That was 7 years ago. How did that come about? And you can share a few things from the 7 years that just flew by. But,
Yeah, I was lucky again. I was very blessed, and um, Portland had just lost their video coordinator, and our GM was with the Clippers for a number of years. So he had called Ramen and asked Ramen if he knew anyone, and Ramen gave my name, said, "Hey, we have a really good intern." So um, I think I got put on a list, and I remember it was like a Wednesday, and I was in the restroom at my house, and Coach Stotts called me, and um, he has like a Milwaukee number, so I thought it was like my mortgage banking thingy or something, calling saying that I didn't pay or something. So I almost didn't answer it, and I answered it, and Coach Coach and I talked for about an hour and a half, just about different things, my background and uh, what I might do in the position, and different ideas that I had. And he asked me to send him my resume. And the funny thing is, I had interviewed with a different team maybe a couple weeks ago, and I remember that they asked me to send my resume, and I thought I did a really good job in the interview. And um, I really wanted to send something more than just my resume, and not just like, a cover letter and here's my resume, right? So I put in like, I remember I wrote to Coach and I said, "It was really nice to talk to you and stuff like that. I just want you to know that if you hire me, you will never regret hiring me, because I'm going to bust my butt and do everything I can to help you guys win." And I remember I went to bed. I was like, all right, if I don't get the job, at least I spoke my piece and I said everything. And he messaged me back and he asked me if I was related to this other Yim.
right.
Um, and at that point I was like, okay, maybe this is a good sign, right? So and then Neil called me later that afternoon and offered me the job. So it was like really quick, within like a day, 2 days, that happened. So that's how I got to Portland. It was just real weird. So I mean, like I said, I'm very faith-based too. My dad was a minister. And I'm not trying to preach and anything, but I do remember I was sitting in church and I was interviewing for like these assistant video positions at the time, and I wasn't getting any of them, and I was very upset, and I remember my mom was just telling me, you have to just be patient, and like I felt like God was telling me, you have to just be patient. And the position that I got in Portland was for the head position and stuff like that. And it was like a couple months after, I had tried for these other positions. And I remember my mom just telling me, see, like, that's why you have to have patience and trust, because your vision was so small. You wanted the assistant position, right? And like God's plan for you, or your plan was even bigger. The plan that he had for you was bigger. Like you were looking too small, you're getting upset for these small things, like, and he's like, I got you, and he gave you a bigger position. So, I think that was an important lesson for me and an important moment for me. And like I said, I feel like I got really blessed, and it was just by chance, especially just being with the Clippers for 1 year and then just moving into that position. It just happened, it was just, I guess, a miracle.
I mean, John, it was bang bang. Like I remember when you got hired in I had a similar story when I met a pretty legendary coach around here, and he came up to me. This is when I was at University of Portland. And he came up to me and said, "Hey, make sure to say hello to your dad for me." And I was like, "Who? How does he know my dad?" My dad's he was running a dry cleaners in town. I was like, "Oh, maybe he drops off his clothes there." But he was talking about Rich Cho. He thought I was Rich Cho's son, And so I remember thinking, gosh, like again, that's for you or for myself, like again, it's one of those experiences when you're one of a few, and people try to connect the last name game. But I mean, 7 years, Jon. Like I remember when you got hired, and you talk about your faith. It's almost like your life is an extreme. I want to joke to the crowd, like, hey, people, it's that easy. Just stay persistent. Tell people you're gonna hire me, and I'll kill it. And then you'll be the Blazers head video guy. But when we really like dig into that a little bit, I mean, how was it having to do all the mundane work, and what were some of those things? I know, again, you have a reputation within the organization and from from the players on the team that talk about how you just, spend all, waking hours of what you have to give in the gym. I mean, tell us a little bit more about just that grind.
Well, when I moved to Portland, it was the first time I was away from everyone, so I didn't really have a lot of friends. So I just spent all my time in the facility.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the truth.
Yeah.
But I like I said, I never thought like any job was too small. I still don't think that any job is too small. I think my philosophy is kind of like I'm willing to do anything for our team because if it gives us like a 1% advantage, like that's still an advantage that could be the difference between winning and losing. And especially in the NBA when it's so close, like I want to make sure that no stone is left unturned and we're looking for everything. And then, like I said in my email to coach, it's like, I'll never let you down. I'm going to give you my best and I'm going to make sure that I can do everything. And that's the truth. It's like, him and Neil, who's our general manager, like they gave me a great opportunity. And since I've been here, I just have never wanted to let them down, because they gave me a shot and they believe in me and they advocate for me just as much as anyone. So like I just don't want to let them down. I don't want to let the players down. Like I know how much they care, how much they give, how much time, how much they sacrifice. So I just don't want to ever be like the weak link or the reason why we didn't win a game or yeah.
Yeah. And that you talked about just the support. I feel bad now. I remember when you first came, I called you out. We went out to grab coffee. I was just struggling at UP, and you were just University of Portland as a director of ops, and you had just started. It's nice that we have some where we are in place in life to just spend more time like this and connect and encourage each other. But those early days, like again, you're really tight knit with your family. Like your circle is so tight. Obviously, your mom, your sister, and then you had this again. On one hand, you've had this great luck, right, professionally, but then once you got in, you killed. But then on the other hand, you lost your dad early. You touched on the mental health piece of that a little bit, and then you had another really traumatic accident recently that almost almost cost your life and the lives of those close to you. Do you want to share with the group a little bit about how you handled that time, and if there's anything that that overlap from just even your childhood that that's been on your mind lately?
Yeah, like the accident was so I got in a car accident. We were driving back from a waterfall back into the city. It was my mom and my sister and my brother-in-law and myself. And I got blinded by the light. I was the one driving. And I ran into a semi truck and my car got totaled. And if you see photos of the car, like I don't know how we survived. And but I do remember, you know, that was probably the most scared I've ever been in my life. Because I felt like I didn't have control, and obviously I'm worried for the health of my family. Like everyone I loved was in that car, so you know it was very tough. Um, but you know, I think that you know after I realized that everyone was healthy and safe, like I think that it was I try to find uh, something productive out of it. Like, what can I get from this? And um, it it took a while because like I was really like you know you got in an accident and mentally you're in a bad place and um, you know you're worried about a whole bunch of different things and stuff. But one of the things that my sister kept on saying, you know, I couldn't move my leg. I broke my leg. I broke my arm. I broke my neck. Um, collapsed lung, concussion, and everything. And the thing that my sister says that I always sticks with me, and I kind of use to this day even, is that um, you know, like when we were young and my dad passed away, that was a very traumatic moment for us, and it was a very hard moment. But it's also like a defining moment because you can go two ways, and when you've been through like the toughest thing in life, especially at such an early age, and you're able to overcome it, then everything else afterwards kind of seems like, you know what, I can do this because I've already overcome this tough thing. And I think that even with the accident, like I set some pretty big goals after the accident. Like one of my goals was to run a half Ironman 4 months after the accident. Um, you know, and when I said it, everyone said like, no, you can't do it. But like in my head, I was like, no, I can do it. And I think even professionally, like I have big goals and aspirations, and I say like, hey, I want to be a head coach of the NBA, and everyone's like, well, that's you know, like that's going to be very difficult and hard. And I go, no, I think I can do it because I've overcome so many other these obstacles and all these other things that like to me it doesn't seem as daunting because like the hardest thing for me was getting over my father's death. But you know, even speaking of like just wanting to be a head coach or wanting to do an Ironman after my accident or try to win an Ironman and stuff like that, you know, my confidence really comes from my preparation and then my dedication to the process, uh, which is really developed through consistent and um, persistent effort over time. You know, like I know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to reach my goal. And that's why I have the confidence in my ability to like do these things one day or do these things in a couple months or in a couple years. Because I know like if I'm given that opportunity and people may say like, oh wow, this guy, he came out of nowhere and you know, he came out of nowhere to do this and that. But the reality is like it's something I've been working towards behind the scenes each and every day to be prepared for. So for me, like that's where my belief comes from. You know, when my dad died, you know, there was a process to it to get over it and to accept it and like um, to overcome. And I, you know, we were able to come out on top. Same with the accident. You know, there's a process to get to where we want to get to. Um, and then same with any of the other goals I have set or any of the other things that I envision that I want to do, you know, like I'm dedicated and I'm preparing for it. So yeah.
It's almost like you have like you do certain things that I've noticed you doing it that gives you kind of, you know, it gives you a little break from the monotony of the craft and all of that stuff. Or you have rituals even with your family that's important to you. Again, hope you don't mind me sharing with everybody here, but you know, when I got a call from your number, when I found out about your accident, and it was like 2 hours before one of the games, and I was like, why is Jon calling me? He should be getting ready for a game. And it was your best friend who had come up, and I can only imagine like what state you were in, but you were thinking about your mom because you guys have a tradition of having miokguk, seaweed soup on was it her birthday, right? And I guess I'm the only Korean you knew, so I was in out of town, but we were able to get that delivered to the hospital, and my wife was able to deliver it. But I was thinking about that moment, and then recently, maybe it's been a year, you put out a video on Mother's Day where you're in that second row, but before every game you do a little wave to your mom, and it's like the Jeff Hornacek, he would blow a kiss before a free throw, letting his kids know. Or that was like such a touching thing for me to see, and I know you got a lot of responses from that as well. But what are rituals are important to you? Are there any other things that you do that just kind of remind you that how fortunate you are to be there, and honoring
I don't know if it's rituals per se. It's more just family is important to me. Yeah. And community is important. Like you brought up the fact that like I called you for the soup, and I was thinking about it today, and I think just like as Asian Americans, we're a part of this community, and when someone is struggling or someone is suffering, I think that as a community, not just even, and I mean just basketball too, and Asian Americans and different communities, we do a really good job of just being there for each other and to help raise each other up, and what's missing from that story that Marshall's saying is like, I needed it. My mom really wanted seaweed soup or mirepoix because it brings good luck every year. And that's when she was little, that's what they did. And, Marshall was going to Africa, but his wife went out and bought all the things and stuff and brought it to the hospital the next day. And like that meant so much to me and my family because, like you guys went above and beyond, the call to do that, and you had no idea about the accident or anything. And, I think that speaks volumes about you, but it also speaks about our community that we have. And, like I'm very impressed, just, you'll hear tons of stories or similar stories like that, but that's kind of my relationship with you. And that's why, I really value your friendship, and why you and your family are important to me. But yeah, just family has always been important. Um, for so long, it was just me, my mom, and my sister. So, every high point we celebrated together, every low point we were together. And my mom and my sister are definitely my biggest fans, and I'm my sister's biggest fan, and yeah, I don't mind. My mom watches every game, and she's as into it as any diehard fan, and she can't watch when the game's too close, and she'll only watch the replay if we win. She I remember she's come to a few games, and uh, one of the ladies that works with us, Beth, Beth will go, your mom's in the bathroom. She's just too nervous, she can't sit out and watch the game. But my mom's always been like that since I was coaching high school basketball. My mom came to every single game when I was coaching, and she was leading the cheers of defense and banging on the stands. And yeah, so family is important to me, and like all those things that we do and stuff, just to say I love you and thank you for your support, and thank you for just believing in me, when other people didn't, and giving me that confidence to believe in myself, and for raising me right, and all those things, like I don't mind just always sharing that, and always just kind of making my mom and sister, I guess, feel special. So
mean, it's just, I hope for everybody else here too. It's just, you know, I know it was a wake up call for me. I'd always been so proud of you, and I don't think I've ever really had a chance to verbalize it as much, but you know, something like that happens where we could lose you, and it just gives you a sense of urgency. I think that's also part of like why I felt like, you know, this is important to get you out in front of people. I know your family loves you, but you know, I would love for there to be other fans across the country who hear your story and want to want your autograph one day. Hey, it's already 50 minutes in. We're gonna try to cap this at about an hour and a half, so I don't want to hog up all this time with Jon. I want to just open it up to questions. Just one last thing, and then we'll get going. But you know, you have an extended family with your team now, and again, to just at least for all of you guys who made the effort to show up, just a little, you know, a few backstories. But you know, what I've seen you do with your players is you just connect with them. And I think a lot of it has to do with how you serve them and how you care about them as people first. As a high school coach, I try to do that, but I know in the professional world, it's such a transactional space, and you've done an amazing job of that. Maybe it's just more showing off about your generosity, but one of the times I had a dinner at my brother's place, I'm getting calls from you at random hours. That's the life of a video coordinator, right, James? But you said, hey, one of the players got traded. You can feel free to share the player's name or not. I don't know if you're allowed or not. But anyhow, all that to say, like, you guys had a routine. You rebound for him, and you needed to get it done before he left town. And here you are, like on a random weeknight, and you're doing that for a player. Like, tell us just what is it, you know, that, and what have you gotten out of it, you know, when you do that, you know, acts of service like that for the players that you're in charge of?
Well, I don't know if we're in charge of anyone, I guess, in particular, but obviously you form stronger relationships with different guys and different things. But, you know, I think ever since I was like my first year there to like even this last year, like I said, like I'm willing to do anything to help. And, you know, I think sometimes they had no choice because I was the only person there, you know, in the facility. But you know, I think that they know that they can just count on me, and that I'll be there for them, and in any way. And um, I think that that's the most important thing, is like they know that I'm not trying to use them or trying to get something from them, but I'm genuinely there for them, to see them get better or to see them grow, or they know that they can count on me if they need someone to talk to or text or um, anything. It could be, you know, simple things like when we're on the road, hey, I need like, do you have an extra phone charger, or, you know,
Right.
can you grab this or something? And, you know, like they know that I'll just get it done for them. And um, yeah, I mean, I just, at the end of the day, I think, I hope that they know like that, you know, they are like my family, and just in a different way, maybe not the same way that I like love my mom and sister. You know, like I have a different type of love for anyone that walks through our doors. And um, you know, you spend so much time with them, and you know, you spend more time with them than your family and your friends, and you're constantly around each other, that it's kind of hard not to grow attached to certain players, and hard not to want to see them succeed. I mean, I don't think that anyone's walked through any of the doors that any of us have ever coached, and we're like, man, I hope that this guy just fails or just falls on his butt, you know? So for me, I get great joy and satisfaction at seeing them, you know, they all have goals too, whether it's be an all-star or, you know, get in the rotation or become a starter or make more money, whatever it is, you know, they all have goals. And you know, for me as a coach and someone that's around there, you know, I guess for me, my thing that I want to do is just try to help them reach their goals, just like how I want to reach mine and how I want to help the organization reach theirs. And I think that they can see how authentic that I am in that. And and that's why I've been able to form some strong relationships.
It really comes through. Well, thanks for that, John. Really appreciate it, at least for us to just be able to have a space like this, and for people who tuned in to hear your story a little bit. Daniel, do you have any questions that, again, from our bank that we can follow up? Or if you guys have questions, maybe text it to Daniel. Is that right? Is that what we?
Yeah. If you guys just want to privately message me via Zoom your questions, and I'll pick out a few. But we can just start out with what was probably the toughest challenge. I got this from one of the forums. What was the toughest challenge that you went through through your journey, whether it was the Blazers, you know, something along those lines?
Um, I think some of the things that I've dealt with is just confidence related. You know, like now I have a lot of confidence because I've overcome a lot of different things and stuff. But, you know, I think that self-doubt always creeps in your mind. And I remember my first day with the Clippers, we were sitting around a table, and there was 3 interns at the time, and we were talking about where you came from. And um, the first guy, one of the interns goes, "Oh, I coached at UCLA, and I was this and this, and you know, I played Division I basketball, and this and this and this." And then the next person was like, "Well, I coached in Japan, and I was the first, you know, coach that did this, and I played at UCLA, and you know, X, Y, and Z." And then they got to me, and I was like, "Well, I was a high school coach," and they're like, "Well, did you like win a state title?" And I was like, "No, we only won like 3 games last year," and um, Um, then they kind of went back to the other person. Well, so like Japan, like how's the sushi and stuff? You know, they just kind of glossed over me. And I remember in that moment, like, you know, the first thing that goes is like, man, I can't compete with these guys, right? Like I'm not at the same level. And I think that you can go like, for me, like that's always been one of the big things is like, I think Eric Spolstra, they just wrote an article about it. It's like where he's like, he feels like he's a false intruder, or like, you know, like the false sense, like that he doesn't, false belonging, I think is what he said.
Imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Duncan
And
Robinson. Yeah.
yeah, like you don't feel like you deserve to be there, or you're not good enough to be there and stuff. And, you know, I think I felt like that for a little bit, but I remember going, the only way that I'm going to stand out is I just got to outwork everybody. You know, like they might have the backgrounds, they might have, um, the resumes and things, better resumes and better accolades and stuff like that. But I know me, and I know what my work ethic is, and I know what I can control, and I know that I can beat them in all these other areas because those are the things I control, and that's just me. And so like that's just kind of been my mindset, I guess. Whenever I feel that way, um, and whenever I'm dealing with something, like I always just feel like I can just kind of outwork anyone, or um, yeah, outwork them, or just out hustle them and just do more. So
Yeah, I'm Daniel. I know you got some other questions. We have a urgent question that needs to be put out there. Coach Stotts, can we unmute you? You had a question you wanted thrown your way?
How you doing, everybody?
What's up, Coach Stotts?
Jon Yim, good job.
thanks, Coach.
We're here with, so you gave Beth Hancock a shout out earlier. She's right next to me. And I just want to say, one is John really didn't tell me, I should say Jonathan, really didn't tell me much that we didn't know. But honestly, the secret to his success is, and he touched on it, is that there isn't anything that he is not willing to do. I mean, he is one of the hardest workers I've ever had the privilege of working with. And he is such a team guy. And being in a position that I'm in, to be able to trust your staff to do things without being asked. John always comes up with different ideas. He comes up with videos. He comes up with different drills. He participates in the coaches' meetings. He's an invaluable part of our staff, and large part because of his work ethic. Obviously, he knows the game, but his work ethic separates him from other people, and that is the best way to get ahead. In basketball, you don't always have the luxury of charting your path. You really, yeah, I'd like to do this, but you really can't chart your path. Well, in 5 years, I want to do this, 5 years. What I've found is that if you continue to do your job and to do it the best of your ability, it will be noticed. And that's what Jon does. And, I was glad to listen to this. But more than anything else, I just want to give a resounding, applause or whatever for Jon, because he means a lot to me. He means a lot to our staff. And if any of you have any questions for me about him, I'd be glad to answer them. But honestly, Beth knows him better than anybody. He lived in her garage for how many years, but Beth knows Jon better than anybody, and knows him as a coworker and knows him as a person. So if anybody has any questions, obviously you can ask Jon some questions. This is his format. This is his floor. But if you have any questions for me or for Beth, that'd be great too.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Coach. Thanks for hijacking. Hi, Beth. How are you?
Hi, Coach. How are you? I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there you go. There you have it.
But I will say this. Jon and I did not talk for an hour and a half. I haven't spoken to anybody for an hour and a half on the phone.
We talked for an hour and a half.
We did not. I don't talk to anybody for an hour and a half.
I think I was doing all the talking. You just had to listen.
There you go.
And I do remember it was Stephanie Yim who was the scorekeeper at the LA Summer League. And that's who I asked if you were related to her.
There you go.
So there.
There you go.
There you go.
So I'll leave it open. Otherwise, I need to be going, but I didn't want to miss this opportunity to say hello and just speak praises of Jon, because how much I think of him.
Hey,
Yeah,
Coach, what's your favorite kimchi, Coach?
My favorite kimchi?
Yeah.
I hate to say it, I'm not a big cabbage fan. I like spicy food, but I'm not a cabbage guy. So I can't say that I have a favorite kimchi. But Jon was the first one to point out that, I think Kettle now makes a Korean barbecue potato chip. And he was quick to point that out to me.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome. We appreciate it, Coach. Before Coach Stotts has got to go, we'll just leave the floor open. Does anyone want to have a question for Coach Stotts or Beth specifically?
Hey, so Jon, earlier on you had 41 people on the call. Now it's, was that 38 or 36? Down to 30. So only 3 people had to go. So you kept the audience enthralled.
Well, there you go.
Well, listen, if there's no question, I'm gonna check out. But I just wanted to make sure I said hello to everybody.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Coach Stotts, I have a question. Hi, my name. I have a question, and this is a question related to the times we're going through with equity and opportunity. The question that I have for you is, when it comes to Asian American representation in sports, specifically in basketball, how at the leadership level is opportunity and access around that being discussed, and not just for Asian Americans, but also for other minority leaders as well? I'm just curious about your perspective.
Obviously that's at the forefront right now with diversity and inclusion. And I think everybody takes that into consideration. But honestly, when I'm hiring somebody, that is not the priority. I want to hire whoever's going to do the best job for me, and it's not a plus or a minus. I mean, you look at some former players, and obviously some former players, it's 75, 80% African-American, But if you want to have a former player on your staff, that is a consideration. But as far as diversity and inclusion, to me, it's about getting someone who's going to do the best job for you. And in this day and age, if you should lean one way or the other on that spectrum, but my job's at stake. I want the players, you want to have the trust and the respect that whoever you hire is going to do a good job for you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Last question, anyone, before we let him leave?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Hi, Coach. Just wanted to ask you on what your bubble experience was like in terms of execution and just your overall experience at the bubble.
Well, I think Jon can answer this question as well. But for me personally, I was really proud to be part of the experience. It was almost divided into two sections. We had the first 3 weeks where it was practice and kind of getting used to your environment and the protocols and things like that. And then after 3 weeks, or 2.5 weeks, you started playing games and preparation. And then everybody got into a routine. The bubble was very safe, and I didn't probably appreciate the bubble as much until I left it, because when I left the bubble, I said, all right, we're leaving the bubble. And then I said, oh shit, we're leaving the bubble, because everybody there was tested. You knew you were safe. Obviously we were disappointed that we didn't advance further, but I was so proud to be a part of that experience, for not only for our team, for the NBA, but what we were able to do as a league to continue a season. And in these times, that was probably the biggest thing than anything else. Everything else, we were there for 8 weeks, and we got into a routine with practice, with meals, with meetings. We all had our little diversions, whether it's pickleball or tennis or walking or boats or whatever. Everybody found ways to kill time. So it was a really good experience, and I really didn't mind it at all.
Hey, Coach, fellow Oklahoma alum here. I don't know Jon at all, except I said hi to him for 2 seconds in the bubble. But I obviously, was following everything that happened with his accident. I just wanted to ask. That was obviously, a couple hours before a game. How do you guys go into a game with that much emotion after kind of learning about that accident that he went through?
Well, actually, we had just won a series, and that's why Jon was with his family, because we had just won the series against Oklahoma City, and we're going into the Denver series. So it was an off night. I was at a vineyard drinking some wine, actually with Beth and my wife, sorry. And so, Jon, the EMTs called Beth because she was his emergency contact. We didn't know at that time how serious it was. So we had time to at least understand the seriousness of it before we got into the Denver series. I don't know how many days we had in between the Oklahoma City series and the Denver series, but we had time to get used to it. But I tell you, probably the most poignant moment for us as a team was when, I forget, Jon would remember before what game or what it was, but Jon came in.
Game 7.
What's that?
Before Game 7.
No. Was that before Game 7?
Yeah, you guys were flying out.
Into the practice facility? So Jon came in. He had been in the hospital for a while, and he came in his wheelchair and spoke to the team in the practice facility before Game 7, and just saying how important this was, and you never know what can happen, and don't take anything for granted. And really, that talk that he gave our team was, I think, really important for us going on to winning Game 7, because it touched everybody, and he spoke from the heart. And one of Jon's strengths is that he he is a very caring and thoughtful person. And when he speaks, it is from the heart. But that moment really spoke to everybody on the team.
Gotcha. Awesome. Awesome. Great insight from Coach Stotts.
May I ask one more quick question?
This is the last one. What is the last one right here?
Sorry to take up your time,
No
Coach.
worries.
I'm actually, you're taking up Jon Yim's time.
Yeah.
Jonathan's time.
I'm sorry, John. This is your time.
And Jonathan could maybe answer this too. It seems like a common theme here, and 2020 has been terrible for so many reasons, and there's been a lot of stuff that has touched your franchise, especially too. And so I just wanted to know, like, in your team and everybody in the organization has been so resilient. Is that something that you look for in an interview process in some way? Is that part of the culture? Is there a way that you guys kind of foster that through maybe how you lean on each other? Could you just speak to the resilience of the Trailblazers organization and all the people within it?
Well, we do. I am proud of that. We've had success being resilient throughout the season and coming on strong at the end of the season. A lot of that comes from the players, and Damian Lillard leads the charge with that. But I don't know in an interview process you can judge resiliency. The only thing is that for me, in the interview process is to talk to other people who've worked with this person. And that's honestly, everybody, I assume a lot of people on this call are trying to move up, and you want people that you work with to speak well of you. And that's why I get back to, if you do your job and do it well, and because that's who people are going to talk to. And so I can't judge resilience in an interview. I can get a feel for the person. You do your background checks on who the person has worked with and how they conduct themselves. But that's why hiring is very difficult, because you don't know anything about the person until you've worked with them day in and day out, in good times and bad times. And you hope for the best when you're going through that process.
Thank you.
Yep. Look, I'm gonna jump off so that you can ask John some questions. But I just want to say, John, thank you very much. I'm glad this was good stuff, and we'll talk about it later.
Sounds good.
See you later, Coach Stotts.
All right, take care, everybody.
Yeah.
Beth.
Bye. See you later. Good job, Yimmer.
Awesome. I've got a question here from some of the participants. This is for John, obviously, if you were to take yourself back to really the start when you were coaching in high school and when you got the opportunity with the Clippers, what is that one piece of advice you would give yourself back then that would really bode you well and that you wish someone had told you back then? And generally with that, and also as a Korean American, if you can attribute that as well.
The one thing that I wish I would have done more back then was just write down more things that was just happening. Drills, practice, just a lot of different things, what might have happened, how the coach dealt with certain guys, and how he communicated. I think just being in that moment, you're so overwhelmed and you're just trying to do a good job that you're not able to just grasp everything. So I kind of wish that I had done that more. Being Korean, I guess I don't really have anything for that.
No worries.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah.
Another question along those lines is, you mentioned that at a certain point you felt like you were good at it, right? The coaching part. Did you have a certain moment when it just clicked with you, like, hey, this is it. This was for me. This is the path that I'm choosing.
I think that for me, I always want to see how far I can go. So like I had one at the youth level, and then I wanted to win at the high school level, and then I won at the high school level. So I really wanted to be like, I really aspired to be a college coach. And when that opportunity didn't really present itself, like I just was kind of really content with being a high school basketball coach and a history teacher, and just being like the best high school basketball coach I could be. And then you had club, and the club for me was really good because you could go to different areas of the country and compete and play and just kind of just test your wits with other people. So I felt like I was good because I thought that I could teach the game really well, and it wasn't necessarily like we won all the time, but the way that I presented the game and the way that I could teach them, and then seeing everyone's growth, like all my teams always got better as the season went along, and they never regressed or they never got worse, or they were always an upward trajectory. So I always felt like I was really good at just teaching it. And like I said, like I love teaching. Like if I was in the NBA, I'd just be coaching high school basketball and teaching history, and I would be totally cool with that. I just really enjoyed having that type of impact on young adults, and helping them, like I said, even with the professional players, just helping them reach their goals. I just have always really loved that and that aspect of coaching and teaching.
Awesome. And we got a few questions here specifically about what you do as a video coordinator with the Blazers, right? So what does your day-to-day look like? And for those who are looking to get into video, what are like the actual tangible skill sets you need? Do you need prior knowledge of synergy? Was it really just, hey, I can do anything? What can you offer if someone wants to break in and be an intern or along those lines? Like, what would you give them advice with?
Well, like for me, like, okay, so like the day-to-day is like we're, at least for me, my job is I'm in charge of like the scouting and the game planning for future opponents, as well as like personnel edits for the players. And basically what that means is like, we'll break down an opponent. So like, let's say that we're playing the Lakers, right? We'll watch their last 6 games, 5 games. We'll have it all broken down. We'll kind of know the tendencies of the plays that they're running, tendencies of individuals. And then I work with the coach to present it to the team. And then that's pretty much basically what my job is. As far as prior knowledge, like I always tell people, like, I don't think you need to have prior knowledge. I think that you need to be able to use a computer, but I think that a lot of the things that you're going to need to be able to have, like we can teach you. And then that's for you to become proficient in it. That's up to you with your work ethic and how good you really want to be at it. Cause I've had some guys I've worked with that, they'd rather be on the court more than the video room, and they were just not very good at what we call logging games and stuff like that. But like for me, like, cause that's my role and that's what my job is, even though I'd love to be on the court more and be doing more things on the court. I really just try to excel at what my job is. And another thing I guess that I look for when I'm hiring someone for the video room is, can I get along with them on a more personal level? Because, we're going to spend a lot of time together, just in the video room by ourselves and stuff. And I need to be able to like communicate with you and talk to you and deal with you and not just get annoyed with you. And, so I think that's more important to me, for me, when I'm looking, when I interview guys or when I talk to guys, I kind of look at it more from a personal aspect. Because most of the people that interview us, most of the people that send resumes to us that we interview, you figure like they have some type of basketball knowledge or basketball background. So the character of the person to me is more important than whether or not they have this background in synergy or second spectrum or huddle or sports code. All that stuff, like we can teach that to you in 2-3 weeks. Now, if you do have a background in that and you have experienced it, like I said, we hired a guy this last year who interviewed 4 years ago he was like a head video coordinator for the WNBA team. He was a head video coordinator in college. So he had that experience, and that really, to me, helped me a lot this last year because he kind of knew what to expect and he knew how to handle things. If I wasn't there, he knew what to do. That's good. But I also think that that comes over time too. You know, like I didn't know anything about any of the software or anything. When I moved to Portland, when they hired me, we were using entirely different software with the Clippers. So I had to learn a whole new program, a whole new working, how to work everything. And I made a lot of mistakes. And, you know, I'm very thankful for Coach because he was very patient with me because I made a lot of mistakes for that first year. But I think that, like I said, like your work ethic and your desire to get better at it and your willingness to get better at it will really come through. And then I think, well, the guy that asked Coach the question about your resiliency, I think your character shows up over time, just kind of seeing how you work and how you handle different situations and how you handle adversity. So.
No, it's awesome. So it's 5:21 right now, and I appreciate everyone for sticking through. We've got a ton of questions, but here's what we're going to do. I'll open up the floor for 2 more questions. And then after that, if we don't get to your question, I'll send those questions out to John. He could write a written response and we'll send them out on an email or something. But anyone, floor is yours. 2 more questions, and then we'll have to let him go, let you all go. Unless there are no questions.
Everyone wrote out the questions.
Oh, go ahead. Just anyone who wants to speak up.
Hey, Jonathan. My name is Peter Hyun. Really thankful to hear from you today. I'm actually a lawyer. I work at a law firm, but I'm a friend of Marshall's. Very, very inspired by your story. I had a question because, you know, as a lawyer for myself, I'm a first-generation lawyer in my family. I too am a PK, and one of the hurdles I had as a lawyer, for example, is when I first went into the private sector, my first time in this setting, and I remember speaking to a senior partner who was older than my parents, and I kept addressing them by saying, Mr. Jones or whatever, and they'd be like, oh, don't, no, you know, just call me Jim, you know? And I realized that I had to get over this mental hurdle of you know, addressing my seniors in a certain way, showing deference, and it really hindered my professional growth because I would see, you know, colleagues who would, you know, just openly talk to people who were, you know, much, much older to say, hey, you know, Jim, how's it going? You know, and I couldn't mentally get over that hurdle. And I'm wondering if you ever experienced those same kind of internalized cultural hurdles that may have either helped you or, you know, or in some ways held you back. And, you know, so I'm curious if you've experienced that and if you could speak to that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's held me back or not. Like I can't speculate on that because I don't know what other people are thinking, but I do remember I was in summer league and one of my friends worked for another team and he was really trying to push me to kind of maybe hopefully work for their team. And he introduced me to the general manager of the team. And I was very respectful, you know, deferred, you know, just very respectful. And I remember my friend came back to me the next day and said, yo, like he did not like you at all. And I was like, well, what was his criticisms and stuff? And it was like, well, you're not a bulldog and you're not tough enough and you didn't show like fight and stuff like that. And I was like, that's just not me, you know, like being the way that I was raised, it's like with your elders, like how you said Mr. Jones and stuff like that. Well, I don't know if I called him Mr. whatever, but I know that I was very, you know, docile, I guess, not docile, but, you know, like tempered, and I wasn't over the top. And I remember in that moment, like I was sitting in the hotel in Vegas and I was like, man, like they want me to, they said that I don't have a bulldog or I'm not tough, but like if they knew me, they'd know that I was tough and they'd know that I had that bulldog mentality. And for me, like at that moment, like I decided that I was going to be me. And if I wasn't going to try to change and try to be something that I wasn't. And if I made it or if I didn't make it, right, it wasn't going to be because like I was something that I wasn't, but it was because I was going to stay true and genuine to who I was as a person. So, you know, like I've lasted 8 years, 7 years. And like I said, I don't know, I can't speculate on whether or not that's hindered me from getting jobs or not. But I know for a fact that like when people talk about me, they're not going to say like, they're going to have positive things to say, you know. But, you know, and then, you know, like I also begin to think like, you know, like you just kind of need that one person to like really believe in you, right? And just kind of trust in you. And, you know, I think I have a lot of advocates within the Trailblazer organization. And I think that, you know, just me being me and stuff like that is going to get me to where I need to be or where I want to get to. Yeah, hopefully that answered your question. So.
One question. If you spend a lot of time like or am I not? If you spend a lot of time like studying the game but lack tangible work experience, how do you think you would best demonstrate or take advantage of that in terms of like just trying to start out or getting your foot in the door if you wanted like a position like yours?
I think there's ways to get experience. Like you look really young, so like how old are you?
I'm 19.
Yeah, so I think that there's ways for you to get experience and stuff. Like Marshall can talk about like he volunteered when he was in Africa at Basketball Without Borders, and he volunteered at other things, and you know, like I volunteered at different things, and I think that you know you can put yourself in a position to be seen and to kind of network and to kind of meet people, and from there, you know, as they get to know you better and they get to know who you are as a person and stuff like that, I think that can help you eventually maybe one day land the job that you want or a role. But, you know, obviously there's, you know, like I started as an intern, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's hard, I think, just to just say like, jump into one position really quickly. You know, but I think, you know, at 19 years old, like I would just be volunteering a lot and emailing different people and, you know, kind of like what I said to like the Clipper guys, like, hey, is there anything that I can do, or is there anything that you guys need? Like, you know, like if you're in college, a great opportunity is to go in and work for the college basketball team. You know, for me, like I wanted to coach high school basketball. So like maybe you find a high school basketball team to coach, or you help out at, you know, just the youth facility, or you know, coach like a youth team for a couple of years just to kind of get some experience and then kind of work your way up from there. So for me, like I hate saying like what's the right way, because I don't think like there is a right way or a wrong way. I think that if you have a strong passion for it and you're committed to it, you can eventually get there. But you know, it just takes a little time.
All right.
I just have just a thank you. John, nice to meet you virtually. My name is Gat. I've known Marshall for some time now, and I've seen him I've seen you on his social media a couple of times. And when he was posting about this, I wanted to jump on and just hear your story as well too. You know, hearing your story, you can apply to just about anything that you're going through in life. You've kind of shown that if you put in the time and if you put in the work, you can get to where you want to get into. And I know 2020 has been a tough year for everyone, but just I wanted to jump on today and just get some inspiration from someone's life story, because I find that really interesting all the time. But again, thanks for sharing the details. Great to hear your story. and look forward to seeing you go up and higher with the Blazers team.
Thanks, Gat. Appreciate it.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up there. Marshall, you want to wrap that up?
Yeah, 5:30. We did pretty well, John. You did it. You got through it. Yeah, John, just thank you so much for, just your generosity, your spirit, just to put yourself out like this, being vulnerable and sharing some stories that, were really hard. But again, it was awesome to see all these people just, you could tell they were just inspired just hearing your story. And, I really appreciative of who you are and what you've done. So thank you.
Hey, man, thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.